Think you need big brands to profit from selling used clothes? Think again. In the next few minutes, I'm showing you why brands don't matter as much as you think. I'll reveal the 8 things that savvy resellers look for: fabric, age, fit, and more. Stick around, and by the end of this video, you'll want to ditch the logo and start focusing on what truly sells for the most profit. Alright, so if we haven't met yet, my name is LeeMeier, and I am so glad that you are here. I've made well over $100,000 net profit as a part-time reseller, and I'm on a mission to be able to help as many resellers as I can. If you haven't heard my story, a few years back when I was looking into getting started as a reseller, I took a trip out to the thrift stores around me. I had brand lists in hand from research that I had done from other big names in the industry of all of the brands they said that you would find, of all of the brands that they said were profitable. And I headed out to the thrift store with those lists in hand. I knew exactly what I was looking for, and I was going to be successful. However, 30 minutes later, I found that none of those brands were there. None of the things that they said that I would find. None of those big names. Instead, I left discouraged, and I left hopeless, thinking that reselling would never work for me, for where I live, for the small town that I live in. I thought that I had to live in a big city. I thought that I had to have access to big name brands. But thankfully, I stuck with it, and through a lot of trial and error, I found things that would sell right around me, profitable things that other resellers were looking over. And I've since gone on to again make well over $100,000 just from selling used clothes on sites like eBay, Poshmark, and Rarity. And I'm here to encourage you that you can be successful no matter where you live. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my best tips, what I look for to be able to find items where there is a demand for. And yes, there's a time and a place for brands. You should know brands, but there are so many other items and so many other factors. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dive right into that first thing that I look for. Now, as we're getting started, I do want to quickly mention that I have some free goodies for you. You'll find them down here in the description below this video. This includes things like my best brands list. Those are the brands that I actually source and sell, the brands that I find on a regular basis. You're also going to find my Reseller Bootcamp, my $100,000 Reseller Challenge. Again, down here in the description below this video is where you will find those free resources. The takeaway as we're going through this is that I want you to know that a cleverly positioned off-brand item or a hidden vintage gem often outperforms big name luxury branded pieces by double or even triple. All right, so we're gonna tackle each one of these factors one by one with real examples so you can spot the winners before anyone else. All right, so first up is Rarity. This is how unique a piece is, how one of a kind a piece is. Some of these sell quickly, others of them might take a little bit longer to sell, but it's usually worth the wait. Because it's a one of a kind item, you can ask more money for these types of items. Let me show you what I mean. This is an unbranded sweater with a horse head there on the back and horseshoes there on the front pockets. There are no other items like this out there because it is a handmade item. Because of that, this seller was able to get $300 for this piece. This is another really unique item here. It is from a very small brand that is called Tuxie, and they are known for their one-piece sweatsuits. There's hardly any of these in used condition online, and the demand is definitely there. This one was listed at $75 and it sold for $67. The best way to be able to judge rarity is to look up how many items are available and can you find that exact item. If you're not seeing a lot of other similar items that are listed, there's a good chance that this is a rare item. Now, the second thing that you're going to want to check, in addition to just those items that are out there available to buy, is you're going to want to check on how many items have sold. With a given brand like Tuxie that I just mentioned, that's fairly easy to do. But with some more unique pieces such as that horse head, You just have to use your best judgment in a lot of cases. However, for our example with that horse head sweater, if you're to do some research, you would find that a lot of sweaters with this knit pattern, this style, are selling at the $100+ range. This is another example of a unique item where you don't have to necessarily have this amazing brand. This muumuu is actually from the department store Sears. And it's a size extra small, by the way. This dress sold for $130. And if you're looking for an easy way to be able to display your measurement information and any flaws, and you want some better looking listing cards than these ones, I have some much better looking comprehensive listing cards in my shop. All right, so the next thing to keep in mind when sourcing items is to look at the overall style and the look and the aesthetic of the piece. Many buyers shop by this alone. And some of these aesthetics, when you know what to look for, are selling for crazy amounts, even if it's not a big name brand. This is a women's dress from a no-name brand or a lesser known brand that nobody would probably be searching for. But this dress sold based off of the look alone. And in this title, you're gonna notice that the seller used style-based keywords, dark fairy as well as whimsy goth. What is whimsy goth? It's a lighter, more whimsical version of the goth look. This dress is a beautiful maroon color with a mesh overlay, black flocked velvet, and beadwork. Dresses with this look, even for off brands, are going for a crazy amount. This one sold for $130 for this style. And that's very typical for this look. And there are lots of aesthetics like this. If you're wondering about more profitable aesthetics and keywords to use in your listings, I do have a handy poster. It makes it super simple to type up listings in a matter of seconds. 80 different keywords that buyers are looking for. All right, so another example here of sourcing based off of the look or the aesthetic of the item. This is a women's sweater from a no-name brand. It's got some shell accents. They used the keywords boho, beach, coastal, and hippie. This one sold for $35, and again, this is a no-name brand. Another aesthetic that is selling crazy to be on the lookout for are what are called thrashed items. These can include things like sun fading, bleaching, stains, holes, rips, tears. Buyers are looking for these for whatever reason. This is a long sleeve tee from a landscaping company. It's got the name Sergio on it. Sergio, do you need your shirt back? This has got a hole in the back. It's got sun fading there across the top of the shoulders. And this one was listed at $50. It sold for $45 in that condition. These are not just one-off sales, I kid you not. And you can check out this video up here where I go through in depth of what to look for when it comes to these types of items. All right, next thing that I keep in mind when sourcing is the age of the item, and in particular, vintage items. And again, it doesn't have to be a big name brand. It doesn't even have to be a recognizable brand for these items to sell for quite a lot. So many examples that I could give here of the types of items that are selling. One of my favorite things are satin bombers. Even with logos, maybe from a bar that you've never heard of, or a company that you've never heard of, or maybe it's got somebody's name there on the chest. Most of these vintage items are an easy $50 to $100. This is a satin bomber that says Pearl Lager Beer on it. This one sold for $108. It's from a brand that is called Trophy Sportswear, but again, it doesn't really matter. This is another example of a vintage item. Now, this is a lower value, what I would classify as a mall brand. This is a pair of chunky platform boots with patchwork from the brand LEI. This one was listed for $150 and it sold for $120. T-shirts are another one of those items that can do really well when it comes to vintage. Of course, things like Harley Davidson and band t-shirts do really well, but don't overlook other items. This is actually a Sesame Street Cookie Monster t-shirt that says Got Cookie. This one is from a brand that is called Changes. It was listed at $175 and sold for $149. On the other end of the age spectrum, I also look for items that are newer. If it's a style that is trending, buyers are usually willing to spend a little bit more, even if it's a lower value brand. This is a dress from a brand of what I would call a garbage brand made in China. It's a brand that is called Pretty Garden, but because this is a newer trendy item, this one still sold for $25, which is more than a lot of Lululemon tank tops sell for. Another newer item that sells quickly that is trending are any one-piece jumpsuits, rompers, coveralls. This is a jumpsuit from the Target brand Universal Thread. This was listed at $40 and it sold for $36. And I had to throw in this example of an American Eagle pair of jeans. It's not maybe a brand you would find on any high profit BOLO list, but certain items can sell better than others, and that's especially true when it comes to their newer items. This is a pair of jeans just a couple of years old with cargo pockets, super trendy. These are their super high-rise baggy straight. And this sold for $45. Now, American Eagle, as well as a few other brands, do make it very easy to know the age of the item. With American Eagle, you're gonna find that under the main tag. You'll see a date there on that tag to be able to tell how old that item is. Now, the other thing that this item has going on for it is the size. It's a 20 long, which brings me to the next factor that I look for, and that is size. And it's usually true that almost always bigger will sell better than smaller. You're also gonna wanna look for specialty sizes like big and tall for men, tall for women, or even petites. Most of the time, there's less of a supply for these types of items out there, and so buyers usually end up paying a little bit more when they come across the right thing. 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X. Again, the bigger, the better. This is an example of what is actually an upcycled shirt from a lower value brand. It's a men's 5X, and that one sold for $33. And this is a sweater from Old Navy. This is a 3XL. It was listed at $24 and sold for $20. And this is a plus size blouse from Liz Claiborne, a brand that usually doesn't hold its resale value very well, but because of the size of this item, is sold for $28. It's also linen, which is another thing that I always keep in mind, and the next factor on this list, and that's the fabric or material. Whether it's a material like leather, linen, or silk, or a fabric like velvet, seersucker, or tweed. This is one of the things that buyers shop for and a lot of resellers do overlook, especially those fabrics, how those materials are woven or knit together to create that specific look. This is a 100% linen dress from the Target brand Merona, and this was listed at $46 and it sold for $41. Linen is definitely one of those things to keep your eye out for, even if it's a lower value brand. And any unique knitting patterns, those can sell incredibly well with the right look, even if it's a handmade item. This is a handmade cardigan sweater that sold for full asking price of $70. And I had to throw in another example of a brand that usually doesn't hold its resale value very well, and this is Chico's, but because of the look of this item, because of the patchwork, the tassels, the silk, the velvet burnout, it's got a little bit of everything going on. But because of those different fabrics and materials, this one sold for $99. All right, 2 more to go. I hope that this is helping you. I do want to take a quick second to invite you to check out the Empowered Reseller Membership Program. If you would love to see more sales and higher profit sales, then this is for you. Each and every month, I give my VIPs free access to my monthly sourcing boxes. These are deep dives into lucrative clothing niches each and every month, where I'm sharing the hottest trends, the best keywords and bolos. Plus, as a VIP, you get access to my Q&A days with me, my course vault, and so much more. And at least right now, as of the recording of this video, I'm giving a free gift when you join of all of my keywords that sell products. That's all of the guides and all of the posters so that you can infuse your listings with keywords that sell and start seeing sales come in. All of the info on how to become a VIP is down in the description below this video, and I hope to be able to welcome you into our community soon. All right, the next factor to keep in mind is if that item is related to a specific activity. Is it an activity-specific item? Anything that buyers need to complete a specific activity, whether it's a triathlon, fishing, hiking, track, those items can sell for more money because they're needed for a specific reason. Equestrian items are one of those things that I always keep an eye out for. There's so many good brands like Carrots and Ariat, but there's a lot of lesser known or smaller brands that also sell for a good profit. Rather than trying to keep track of all these little brands, it's a lot easier to look for specific types of items, like these riding pants, also known as joppers or breeches. This one happens to be from a brand that is called Ethos. You can see the rubber there on the inside of the leg to be able to grip the horse. This one was listed at $64 and it sold for $40. Reselling is another one of those things that falls under this activity-specific items. I remember the first singlet I brought home, I had no idea what it was. Showed it to my husband, said, "What is this?" Anytime you're asking that question, that's a really good clue that is an activity-specific item. These sell for anywhere from $20 to $100, depending on the style, the brand, or what is on the chest. This is a singlet for the North Carolina national team that sold for $48. Biking items are another example of these activity-specific items. Things like padded shorts and jerseys. These are mountain biking shorts, a little bit looser fit than road cycling, and these sold for $30. And last but not least, actually one of the more profitable factors to be on the lookout for is the country of manufacture. Where an item is made often says a lot about the quality of the item. For example, Peru. Now, a lot of the items from Peru are going to be 100% alpaca, but just by looking at that country, you have a really good indication that that is a valuable item, even if it's a brand that you don't recognize. This is a cardigan from a small brand, not even quite sure how to say the name, Camano. Made in Peru, this was listed at $50 and it sold for $43. So keep an eye out for those South American countries because those can be some profitable flips. You'll also want to keep an eye out for anything made in Australia or New Zealand. This is an example of a coat that is made in New Zealand, a little bit hard to read on the tag, but these are the types of items that are not mass produced and you can easily see and feel the quality of these items. This coat from a brand called Rod and Gun sold for $130. And anything from Europe, Great Britain, Germany, Italy, Ireland, Scotland. Again, those are really good indications that they are quality items and that they hold their resale value. Even if it's not a huge name, super recognizable brand. This is a pullover sweater from a smaller Irish company. This is 100% wool and it sold for $100. You've now got the 8 key factors like fabric, age, rarity, and style that truly move the needle in reselling profits far beyond any brand name. Now, if you're looking for more help when it comes to styles and the keywords to use in your listings to get them to sell, then you'll want to stick around for this next video where I cover the aesthetic keywords that every clothing reseller needs to know. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you there.